Star Wars is a classic adventure film that works without any other film in the franchise, and that's actually unique to this film, as every other film in this franchise really can't stand alone in the same way this film does. It's a complete story, start to finish, and while it leaves a few possibilities open for a sequel, like Darth Vader being lampooned into space and Han still owing money to Jabba, for the most part this film was completely standalone, and with nothing else it would still be a fantastic film that I still think would be near perfect. That's not to say the film is literally flawless, but it's still kind of amazing how it turned out. Apparently, a lot of it was fixed in the edit, which sort of makes sense with Lucas at the helm, who, as I've said many times on this series, isn't the best director, but is a leading visionary in Hollywood. In fact, this film sets up dozens of things within dialogue that at the time had no payoff, of course through numerous prequels, sequels, video games, TV shows, and books that has been filled in. But if you look at most sci-fi films, it's hard to find one that has such a rich lore from the offset without even intending to have it paid off. You can actually read an early draft of this film through The Star Wars, a Dark Horse comic series adapting an early script. It's not very good, mind you, but it's a fascinating ride, and it was sort of fun to read and see how this film could have happened if the film had not gone through rewrites that led to what we got. Anyways, I suppose we should get into the plot. Star Wars begins with Darth Vader taking over Princess Leia's ship, the Tantive IV, shortly after intercepting the Death Star plans. She's captured, but not before giving R2-D2 the plans, so R2 and C-3PO set off to Tatooine to find Obi-Wan and deliver him the message for him to come and save Princess Leia. However, they're captured by Jawas and sold to Uncle Owen and Luke Skywalker. Luke learns of the distress call put out by Leia and wonders if Obi-Wan is the same old Ben who lives nearby. That night, R2 leaves to find Obi-Wan, and Luke pursues. They're attacked by Tusken Raiders, but saved when Obi-Wan shows up. Luke learns of the Jedi and finds some dead Jawas, leading Luke to suspect Uncle Owen and Aunt Peru are in trouble. Unfortunately, Luke is too late, however, and they got burned up. So Luke says, fuck it, let's go to Alderaan and save the princess. They need a pilot though, and they come across Han Solo, who's in debt, and agrees to help them get to Alderaan for a fee. So they take off and find that Alderaan was destroyed by the Death Star. They're taken in by a tractor beam from the Death Star and end up on board, where Obi-Wan plans to turn off the tractor beam so they can escape. Meanwhile, Luke and Han learn Leia's on the ship and go to rescue her. After freeing her, they try to exit, where they see Obi-Wan and Darth Vader in a lightsaber fight. Obi-Wan dies, but they manage to escape and learn how to destroy the Death Star. So a rebel ship squad goes to destroy the Death Star, as the Death Star closes in on their base, but Luke Skywalker manages to destroy the Death Star, killing the entire Imperial fleet, bar Darth Vader. The end.
The characters.
The characters in this film are fantastic. The chemistry between them all is amazing. Luke and Obi-Wan are a near perfect mentor-student relationship. Luke and Han have a great rapport with their clashing ideologies, Han being in it for greed, while Luke's in it for his wide-eyed optimism. When Leia is added into the equation, she's an excellent addition, and by the end, you really buy them as friends who have been through a lot. Of course, you have R2 and C-3PO, which is a classic odd couple in cinema, but even Tarkin and Vader's relationship seems tense but realistic, as essentially they're the two highest-ranking members of the Imperial Army. It's fantastic. However, I suppose we should break down the characters. Luke is a farm boy who feels like he has a greater purpose in the galaxy, wanting to join the rebels along with many of his friends who have already left Tatooine. However, his Uncle Owen doesn't want him going down that path, so not to end up like his father. It's a great moment when Uncle says,
Luke's just not a farmer, Owen. He has too much of his father in him.
That's what I'm afraid of.
Master Skywalker, there are too many of them. What are we going to do?
It works under the pretense of his father dying during the war, but it also works even more knowing that Darth Vader is his father. It is a great moment, and it's fun to watch Luke go from the protagonist, feeling unremarkable and trapped, to the hero he becomes at the end of this film. They also left a lot of room for him to grow, and I love how his character blossoms throughout the rest of the trilogy. Obi-Wan is a wise Jedi, unlike the other standard, stoic, wise Jedi, has a lot of cheeky little moments and fun chemistry with Luke and Han that brings him from generic stoic old man to a true mentor. A trait of his character I think the prequels actually did a pretty good job maintaining, and Ewan McGregor did a fantastic job copying Alec Guinness, and it feels really consistent throughout the franchise. Han Solo starts this film as kind of a scumbag, only looking out for himself, eventually coming around to trusting Luke and Leia and having a great moment where he comes to help destroy the Death Star and save Luke, despite this being risky and not in his best interest. He's a fantastic character in this film, and Harrison Ford plays Han so fantastically. I like that when he comes back to help Luke, he's still trying to keep that I'm a cool guy image, while secretly having found a feeling of belonging within the rebels that he didn't have before. Leia is a bit of a blank slate in this film, not having as long to develop as the other core characters. But Carrie Fisher brings a lot of toughness and sass to this princess role that was kind of uncommon for the era. It's also cool to see a female character so strongly into her ideals. Vader, Han, and Luke won't sway her, and she's genuinely fantastic. Her rapport with the overall group is excellent as well. I think this was kind of the archetype for many of the princess characters we see nowadays, with the more strong attitude and more willpower, which I think is pretty interesting to see how that kind of started here. C-3PO and R2 are just as much characters as the rest, R2 being a brave droid who throws himself into harm's way to protect his masters, while C-3PO is a little more cowardly but has a strong connection with R2 that can't be broken. And it's fun to see how he kind of tries to talk down to R2, despite him still following R2's lead often. Chewie is much the same with Han and acts as a pretty fun comic relief, though he doesn't do a ton in this film. Darth Vader is just evil, but you can tell this is on a deeper level than Grand Moff Tarkin. It's more spiritual, and you can tell the Empire is under his thumb, even if other officers underestimate him. It's a pretty interesting dynamic. The Star Wars Special Edition changes range from small improvements to being a bit McClunky, if you catch my drift. Get it? Because Greedo says, whatever, fuck you guys. I examined Marcelo Zuniga's, sorry that I mispronounced that, video to see the changes, and I'm using his footage to show you the difference. Shout out to him, link to his channel is in the description. I'll also link the video along with it. Some positive changes including a redone improved title crawl, some improved shots to make the film more dynamic. Lightsabers have had their color improved and touched up to look more consistent with the future installments. The shot where Han runs into a bunch of stormtroopers was moved to a hangar, which adds more troops. Some elements that bother me is of course the Greedo scene, which has been tinkered with in the 1997, 2004, 2011, and the Disney Plus 2019 release, with now the infamous McClunky line. McClunky. Of course, I think Greedo shooting first is kind of dumb, and it's weird that this scene infamously won't stop being changed, but it's not the biggest deal, I suppose. The one that really bothers me the most is the added Jabba scene, which adds Jabba and Boba Fett, which for one kind of ruins the reveal of these characters in Return of the Jedi and Empire Strikes Back respectively, but it's also kind of awkward. In the 1997 version, Jabba looks like shit, and in the 2004 version, he looks alright, I guess? But Han walks over him in a clearly poorly edited shot, and Han calls Jabba a human being, which is just weird.
Jabba, you're a wonderful human being.
In the original, Han walks behind Jabba because Jabba's a person, also explaining why he calls him a human being.
Jabba, you're a wonderful human being.
This scene is out of whack and probably should have just stayed on the cutting room floor. They also added a whole ton of CGI characters, which feels unnecessary. Honestly, the special editions feel unnecessary in general. This is a fantastic film without the additions, so I don't really see what the point is. I kind of understand George's compulsion, however, not only to add more consistency to this impressive universe he created, but also keep the film cutting edge like it was in 1977. It was probably kind of hard going from one of the most technically impressive films of all time to fairly dated, but he was back on the cutting edge with the prequels, which started coming out shortly after the first edition of these changes, so I don't really see the point. Though I can appreciate some changes, overall I still prefer the original. Sadly, the Blu-ray editions and the Disney Plus versions, which are the most widely available versions of this film, are the edited ones, so if you want to experience Star Wars in its original form, you only have a few options. You can head to a thrift store and buy a VHS copy. If you do, check the copyright date and make sure it's pre-1997. Most of these VHS copies look visually very dated, so you can tell the older ones, where the newer ones are a little more sleek and have the modern Star Wars logo. Modern as of 1997, that is. Which isn't too hard to do since this movie was popular. Or you can watch the despecialized versions, which you can find on torrent websites. I do recommend you own the films legally if you do this method, but to each their own. Overall, though, your experience won't be ruined watching this film on Disney Plus or Blu-ray, and the HD renders do look fantastic and a step above pretty much anything unofficially released, so keep that in mind. And the whole Death Star scene is pretty convenient. They're able to turn off the tractor beam, save the princess, and meet up with Darth Vader on a moon-sized spaceship within hours, presumably. This is all beyond convenient. Like, have you ever been to a hospital or a campus and had to maneuver around? It takes a while. Now imagine doing that on a fucking moon-sized ship. Why is everything so close together? It's somewhat of a nitpick since it needed to happen, but keep in mind even classic films can have some serious flaws at times. It's also worth noting that Luke's friend Biggs is pretty underdeveloped in the film, but the deleted scenes show him more. The kind of conflict is it better to keep the pace snappy as possible or better develop a fairly unimportant B character? I don't really mind this change so much just because obviously it needed to happen, but it is still kind of awkward because Biggs does show up in this movie fairly often.
I was going into Toshi Station to pick up some power converters.
In conclusion, Star Wars is still a classic, and I can pretty much watch this film whenever, and I always enjoy myself. The technology was cutting edge, the characters are amazing, the film flows wonderfully, and it introduces so much lore that would go on to basically create a franchise that's lasted coming on 50 years. It also managed to do all of this at around 2 hours flat, which is amazing to think of. Films like Attack of the Clones, The Last Jedi, and Rogue One are all far longer than this film and do far less for the Star Wars saga. Next time people want to bitch about the prequels or the sequels, maybe they should just sit back and watch where it all began and regain their love for the galaxy far, far away. Anyways, next time I'll be bitching about the holiday special.